Goodness, if I only knew what I was going to ask. I want to, first of all, thank you for being here, Secretary Vilsack. It's always good to see you, doing the Lord's work, making sure that family farmers and ranchers have a shot out there. And we all know that rural America has been declining, and it's going to continue to decline unless we do some things a little differently. And you know where I'm going with this. A few weeks back, the Senate Agricultural Committee, and I'm sure you're watching it, held a hearing on two bills that deal with consolidation in the marketplace when it comes to the cattle industry. You know the statistics. 4 companies control over 80% of the marketplace. Capitalism doesn't work in situations like that, and we want capitalism to work. We want there to be competition in the marketplace so that both cow-calf operators and consumers can reap the benefits of a good competitive system. The President's budget asked for $35 million for Packers and Stockyards. Given the issues that I just said, I just brought up beef, pork, poultry, and others are in a very similar situation. Do you think that level of funding is adequate, the $35 million for Packers and Stockyards?
It would represent a very significant increase, Senator, and I think it would be adequate for us as we strengthen Packers and Stockyards this year. You'll see probably 3 rules coming out from the department in an effort to try to strengthen the enforcement capacity of the department, and those resources would be very important to be able to do that.
That's good, because it's going to be, I mean, you are the key to unlocking this, you, your department, and you. And so making sure you have the resources to deal with the situation in a fair way is really critically important. As I told you before, I'm not for putting anybody out of business. What I'm for is add more competition in the marketplace, and the Packers and Stockyards Act was originally set up to do that, and we just haven't had the enforcement capabilities. I don't need to tell you about a historically bad drought west of the Mississippi. Last year was the worst year I ever had. This is 44 years on the farm. Grandfather homesteaded 110, and I think with the exception of 1919 and 1920 when they had to move back to the Red River Valley after they started homesteading because of drought, this may be the worst year since then. And by the way, where I happen to live in north central Montana, I was seeding last weekend in dry dirt. We don't get a rain, it's going to be worse than last year. We passed $10 billion in disaster relief last fall, including $750 million for livestock producers. This is critically life and death money. I mean, truthfully, nobody wants to get a check from the federal government, but the bottom line is the drought has caused hay prices to go through the roof. There has been no grass resource because there's been no water. There's been no crops raised because there's been no water. And so can the USDA, can you share any update on the progress of getting that $10 billion in disaster relief out the door?
Livestock producers have received checks in the amount of $560 million last month and this month. There will be a second round of funding for the livestock producers who weren't necessarily covered by the Livestock Forage Program or the Livestock Indemnity Program. We took information from those programs and basically pre-filled the application so that we could move the money out more quickly than in the past. In terms on the crop side, we anticipate and expect announcing this month the structure for how the crop reimbursements will take place. That will also involve pre-filled applications. There are roughly 250 questions that are asked of a producer in order to be able to access WIP Plus. Most of those questions will be pre-filled from crop insurance and NAP data, and we expect and anticipate checks will come out in June.
So doing some quick math in my head, there's about 190 million on the livestock side that is yet to be allocated?
It is, because we want to make sure we cover those producers that didn't necessarily have, they may have had a shallow loss, they may have had a loss that didn't qualify for one of those programs, so therefore there wouldn't have been the data or the information available to the department. So we will go through a process of having them apply for the resources.
And thank you for that. One really, really quick. I was talking to, sitting in the airport last Thursday, and I was talking to a guy that said that he had received some money on cattle shipping to be able to move his cattle. Is that number one? I certainly don't have a problem with that, with the price of fuel and lack of trucks. Are you aware of that program? 'Cause that's not one I was aware of.
Well, we're providing it, we've expanded the livestock indemnity program, or I believe that's the livestock indemnity, or the forage program, to include additional assistance for transportation.
Okay, good.
I'm not sure whether it's the cattle or whether it's I think it's transporting the cattle to where there may be feed or
That's
grain.
correct.
Yeah.
That's exactly what.
We've expanded the program to include reimbursement for that transportation expense.
I don't know whose idea that was, but great idea. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.